How's everyone doing? Good evening, good morning, depending on where you are tuning in from. Can you guys hear us? I'm gonna have to adjust the volume. Let's see.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to get started momentarily. I want to give a buffer of just a couple minutes for folks to tap in and join us so that we can get started. And we'll save questions. If anyone has questions, feel free to write them down, and we'll be more than happy to address them and answer them. So other than that, while we're waiting to get started, I see we have 3 folks on the call. Where is everyone tapping in from? I'm just curious.
I'm at Hoosac School right now.
Oh, okay. You're in Hoosick Falls. Not bad. All right.
And my son's on, so.
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm on Hoosac.
Oh, awesome. McGuire Ward, how are you?
Pretty good, you?
I'm doing excellent. Did you have a chance to catch us when we were at the school?
Yeah.
Awesome. And Wang, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm very good. I'm in Shanghai. My daughter is in the Hosaka school.
Oh, excellent.
Can you hear me?
Excuse me?
Can you hear me? It's clear?
Yeah, we hear you.
We can hear you.
All good
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Excellent. Yeah, we actually, so she probably caught us in person when we went up there to present. She probably saw us actually at the school, which is great. What's going on, Brandon?
What's going on, everybody?
Awesome. I know I just got a call from Dean. He's actually like his service is down, so he might not join us, which is fine. Are we recording? Yeah, we are recording. So anything that we talk about tonight, we can just record and also send out to the parents. So more than happy to do that. I'm going to give let's say just 2 more minutes to give folks a moment to kind of tap in, and then we will go ahead and jump right into the presentation. And again, at the end, we'll save some time for questions and be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Awesome. I just saw your message, Brandon. Yes, we can do that if you want to go ahead and do that. I suggested that to me. We could send an email real quick, but I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'm just going to share my screen. This is recorded, so anyone who misses it can also watch it at a later time. Okey-doke. This one, right?
Yep. And I just want to check. Y'all can hear us at a good volume, right? We're not too quiet or anything.
You guys hear us?
Good.
Oh, good.
Awesome. And can you see our screen right here? Secure your future in cyberspace?
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening or morning, depending on where you're tapping in from. It's an absolute pleasure to be here in front of you guys tonight. today and just want to share some more information. This is an open discussion. It should serve as an informational for parents, for students who have any questions, outstanding questions. And, I just want to kick things off, just introducing the executive team, and then we'll jump right into things. My name is William Sims, founder and CEO of the Freedom Unit. And I'm accompanied today by our co-founder, Brandon Mitchell, and one of our lead instructors and senior software engineer, Keenan Kunzelman. And so we're just extremely excited because what we're doing at the Tfu School is we're making history. We're literally, I always like to say, transcending the next generation of tech scholars and professionals. And so I always talk about, the importance of leaving the classroom and actually heading into the field. And it's really important because we want to focus on gaining relevant experience, hands-on experience. And the way we do that is through programs like this, is through using tools, technologies, terminologies, and really focusing on what's actually happening, in the real world, and not so much what's happening, in academia and theory, but focusing on what's happening in the real world. And all of us tonight are actually coming from the industry. So we either work frontline in the industry or have experience with Fortune 500, Big 4, Big 5 companies. Excuse me. And so we'll be here to answer any questions and kind of jump right into things. So I really want to just start off by saying thank you guys for joining us. We'll try to make it short and sweet, but also very informative to answer any questions that you guys may have. And so jumping right into the agenda for what we see here, we'll talk about just an introduction to who we are. We'll talk about why cybersecurity. Why are we even pushing or stressing this message of cybersecurity, right? We're seeing it in headlines now, but for those of us, myself included, I'm a cybersecurity engineer by trade. Want to talk about the importance of cybersecurity, the relevance of cybersecurity in today's digital economy, and what that looks like for the future. And then we'll jump into some of the cybercrime damages and statistics and facts around what we're actually seeing and how we can support our, quote unquote thesis, or where, we're actually coming from. And then I want to jump into our program details and discuss what's included. And then we'll save a little bit of a Q&A at the end for anyone to kind of answer any, ask any questions. So I hope that's fine with you all. Jumping right into things. So the Freedom Unit, what are we? We are a career exploration program. And what that means is we focus on cybersecurity and professional development skills, right? We focus on utilizing the tools. We focus on identifying with the role. And the way we do that is through gaining hands-on experience. And so we've put together this program, which is to serve as an internship for students, again, so that they can build their portfolio of professional experience, right? And so being that I come from a technical background, I've been working in cyberspace for a long time, and I also studied cybersecurity in college. I have an associate's in IT and a bachelor's in computer security. But more time than I would like to admit, we're seeing students that graduate from universities and they can't get a full-time job. And the reason being is because they don't have hands-on experience. And so we're here, we started this program to bridge the gap. And so, the universities, the institutions, they're focusing on theory, right? And the corporations, right? The Googles, the IBMs, the Amazons, Metas of the world, they're focusing on the actual policy and technology. And so we want to be able to bridge the gap by providing hands-on application engagement and experience with students, and so that they can identify with the roles of today and the future. And so that's our mission. We're here to expose, we're here to educate, execute, evolve, and empower the next generation of tech scholars and professionals. Okay, so we're going to get into why cybersecurity? Why are we even talking about cybersecurity? What does the future of work actually look like? And so the way I like to describe this is that this is a trade. So similar to a plumber or an electrician, right? So if you were going to school to be a plumber, a welder, electrician, you're not going to go to college. It's just not probably in your trajectory, right? You're going to go to a trade school, you're going to go to a vocational school, but you're not going to actually go to a 4 or 5. You're not going to go to a master's in electricity, right? You're not going to go go to school to become a welder. You're going to go to a trade school. And so cybersecurity, I describe it as the skill of the 21st century. It is literally the trade of the 21st century. And so we're seeing it time and time again, where you don't need a college degree in this space. Now, we are 1000% pro education. We believe in education. I don't want us to come across as not I just want to put that out there, the actual facts, right? We're seeing that students who have college degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, cannot get a job. They cannot get a job. And if the only reason why they can't get a job is because you need to have hands-on experience, right? You need to be able to identify with the role. And the way you identify with the role is you either have experience working, internships, using the tools that are being used in the industry, so that when you're interviewing, you can articulate your understanding and your skills. And so that's why I like to say it's the front line of defense and the backbone to every single industry, no matter if you're in, healthcare, education, no matter what industry you're in, cybersecurity is relevant and it's needed across the board. And so I want to talk about what that actually looks like. Well, right now in 2022, we can talk about what the future of work looks like. The future of work is remote. Right? People are working from all over the world. Look at us right now. We're dialing in from all different places. But I know firsthand experience that I'm able to work full time and never have to go into an office. And again, some people enjoy doing that. Others, don't. They want to be remote, or they want the engagement. But the future of work is remote, and having this technical skill set will allow for you to actually do that. And so, we also, since the pandemic, right, we're kind of like year 2 pandemic. I don't know if we'd consider this, mid-pandemic, post-pandemic, who really knows? But since the pandemic in 2020, we've seen a steady increase in cyber attacks. And so, me working in the field firsthand, I saw a 60% increase in cyber attacks. And so you kind of think about that. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, think about it, right? You've had people that have gone, never worked remote a day in their life, now getting forced to kind of work remote because of the pandemic. And you've had people who, been furloughed and terminated. And so as what we've noticed is that due to the pandemic, the attack surface expanded because you had more users going online. And so there's less cybersecurity awareness, there's less education around the thought of cyber hygiene, digital hygiene. And so what that was is the attack, the hackers and these organizations just went to feast on all of the new, quote unquote, guppies or new folks online. And so we saw a steady increase in cyber attacks, right, year over year since the pandemic and just in general. And so in addition to that, we're also noticing the Internet of Things, right? So now you have, Apple Watches, Bluetooth connections, whether it be Alexa, your phone, your laptop. The average person now has 11 devices. And so the more endpoints we continue to add to the Internet of Things, the more vulnerable and susceptible we are to attacks and breaches. So we want to make sure we're keeping cyber awareness and education at the front of our minds. And so obviously now more than ever, this is a national security risk. Like we're seeing it with what's happening in the world, but also just in general, just like, understanding that cybersecurity is a mandatory skill set. You kind of need to have it in the age of information technology. And so we want to make sure we're preparing the next generation of scholars with this skill set that is not disposable. And so moving on from there, we can talk about digitalization, what that looks like, in the age of information technology. Well, I asked this question when I went on campus. I was like, hey, who's ever heard of the metaverse? Who's ever heard of cryptocurrency, right? NFTs, augmented reality, haptics technology, virtual reality, machine learning, big data, software engineering, you name it. This is the age of information technology, and we're never going back, right? It's never going to disappear. It's only going to continue to become more of the norm. And when we kind of accept that and adopt that mentality and that lifestyle, there are side effects, right? There are challenges that are associated with that. And that is where cybersecurity is kind of, gets brought into the conversation. And then I want to talk about, 1 in 4 candidates being actually qualified. So I mentioned that before, that when you have a graduate, and I noticed this because I have, colleagues and peers, and, Keenan and I, Brandon and I all went to the same school. We've seen students that graduate with, their IT degree, computer science degree, business, accounting degrees. They can't get a job. And even now more than ever, with the competition being at an all-time high, we're seeing folks that can't get work, right? There's no reason why you should have a student going to school for 4 or 5 years and going back home to work at Target with a 4-year bachelor's degree. But it's happening. And you're probably asking yourself why, and it's because only 1 in 4 candidates in the tech field are actually qualified for the job, because in the classroom, they're not using the actual skills and the tools that are being used in the industry. And so we got to focus on what's actually happening in the real world. And so currently right now, there's over 1 million unfilled jobs worldwide. And that number is only projected to go higher. And cybersecurity is one of the only fields right now with a 0% unemployment rate. So moving on from there kind of ties into our next slide, cybercrime stats. In 2021, we saw damages reach an all-time high. Cybercrime exceeded $6 trillion in 2021. With that being said, this industry, cybersecurity, the total market size of the industry is only 200 billion. So if you take a look at the market cap, the market size of cybersecurity and the cybercrime damage exceeds the actual industry like 3 times. And if you think about it, it's actually more than that. But from a month-to-month basis, in 1 month of cybercrime damage, you can see from the bottom of this slide, that was equivalent to 500 billion a month. So in 1 month of cybercrime damage, it literally exceeded the industry almost 3 times. So this is literally an uphill battle that we're losing, and is definitely essential to our nation's existence, if you think about it. Global spending on cybersecurity is projected to exceed $1 trillion. We're seeing that in the real world with, Google, Joe Biden, the government, Microsoft allocating 30 billion to ramp up cybersecurity efforts. And to be honest with you, 30 billion is nothing. That's not even going to put a dent in the actual, root cause of what's actually going on. So 6 trillion a year, 500 billion a month, 115 billion a week, 16 billion a day, 685 million an hour, 11 million a minute. You get the point. That's 200,000 a second of that's being lost in cybercrime damages. So this is kind of like the support of like what our statement is of like, there's a 0% unemployment rate and 1 in 4 candidates are actually qualified. Well, the expectations for an entry-level role are kind of ridiculous. And so we want to expose students to what's happening earlier on, so that if a student in like their freshman year of high school wants to pursue cybersecurity or is interested in a career in cybersecurity, by the time they're a senior in high school, they have 4 years of experience to go get an entry-level job. And we're actually seeing this happen in real time. Like we're actually seeing the metrics, the testimonies, like students are getting opportunities right out of high school if they possess the skill set. And so this is actually happening. This is not something that we're just saying. It's actually happening in the real world. And we want to continue to serve as a bridge to kind of, again, sustain this demand and bridge the gap for this demand in skill set. And so I'm going to move on now and talk a little bit about the program. What exactly is Tfu Academy or the Freedom Unit Academy? I said we're one of the leading career exploration programs, and we specialize in cybersecurity training and professional development skills training for high school students, primarily secondary education school students across the US. And so, you're probably wondering what's included in our program, like what are we actually going to have students doing over the 4 to 6 weeks? And essentially this is to serve as an internship. Now, for those of you who don't know what an internship is, or a, shadowship, externship, co-op, it's essentially your first taste at the real world. Like it's your first taste of working a real job. So like this is essentially your pre-trial to actually getting a full-time job, what it would be like to actually work on a team for an organization, work on real life challenges and problems that are happening in the real world. And so we're going to allow this to serve as an internship for students. This is something that typically happens while students are in college, and most students are not actually even getting internships in college, which is why that kind of confirms our statistic of 1 in 4 students being qualified. And I can let Brandon talk about that towards the end of what statistic and what we're actually seeing. But this program is to serve as an internship, and there's a benefit to enrolling as a high school student as opposed to waiting until you're in college. And that is that you can demonstrate that you actually have a skill set. So whether your student is going from HUSAC to college after HUSAC, or maybe they want to go right into the real world if they're qualified to, this is going to only benefit a student because it's positioning them for the real world and to be successful. So it's strengthening our student body, right? And allowing them to develop a skill set, which is why we want them to go through this internship. They're also going to get exposure to team collaboration, working with industry experts like myself, Keenan, Brandon, and more, getting exposed to real world projects, right? So our program is pretty much broken down into 4 domains, and we specialize in cyber threat intelligence. And what that actually consists of is how to research, right? Which is one of the most critical skills in any job, but specifically in tech, because things are changing. It's like you're drinking from a fire hose. Literally, things are changing 100 miles an hour. And you're drinking from that fire hose. So we want to understand how to research what's going on, how to perform analysis, how to conduct investigations on industry recognized vulnerabilities and exposures using open source intelligence tools. And so what that means is essentially different tools that are used by public sector, private sector companies, government agencies who depend and rely on these resources in order to move cybersecurity forward. And so students are going to get exposed to that, write up these deliverable reports, which are very technical reports, but they're going to be taught how to produce these reports and put it in human readable language in order to produce to C-suite executives, right? Managers. That's a real 6-figure skill set that if you're working in a security operations center, if you're working, on a cybersecurity team, that's an actual deliverable that you would actually have to, meet on a daily basis. So we want students to be able to identify with that now. And then in addition to that, another segment of the program run by Keenan is, software engineering and understanding how to program using Python. And do you want to talk a little bit about that, Keenan?
Yeah. So I mean, all this stuff is great in terms of just discovering threats and being able to identify and further triage those threats. But at the end of the day, you're a human if you're doing that just by yourself. But if you can employ a little bit of automation and scripting languages, you can market yourself as tenfold in terms of your employability. So what typically separates, say, a tier 1 SOC analyst from a tier 2 or tier 3 SOC analyst, which these are the people that are going in and looking at actual potential attacks over the network. What separates them is their ability to automate their work, essentially. So they can make sense out of large mountains of data and really find, the needle in the haystack and find that potential traffic, or that traffic that is the potential attack, and triage it upwards and identify it, and then help the company react and reduce their risk or stop an attack. So yeah, we try and teach these students a little bit of Python programming just so that they can start getting their hands on a programming language and building these little data science projects.
Absolutely. And I always say, coming from again, a technical background, the best cybersecurity professionals are ones that have that, software, scripting experience. So we want to make sure we're getting them exposed and at least developing a solid fundamental baseline understanding of, the software engineering or the programming aspect. And then in addition to that, we also are offering a digital forensics segment of the program that's run by our director of digital forensics and blue team operations. So students get exposure to containing an image, being able to extract remnants of a hard drive, data from a hard drive, and just being able to contain that in an actual professional manner. And then we also include a software engineering segment where students get to kind of reverse engineer the thought process of an attacker so that they can kind of be hip to what's actually happening. And this is very useful for attackers who target C-suite executives, send your phishing emails to exploit them, spear phish them, whether it be a malicious link or URL. And so they kind of get them thinking in the thought process of how an attacker would think. And it's very, critical. 60% of attacks start from phishing. So we want students to understand the threat and understand how to think like an attacker so they can prevent being a potential target. And then last but not least, we also include a career services element of the program, which is really, Brandon can talk about that, but essentially, we're offering, resume building and LinkedIn optimizations and interview coaching And Brandon, you can kind of dive into how that's really important and why we actually include that in the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, when you talk about all this stuff around folks being able to land internships and job opportunities, I mean, we see it all the time. A lot of folks are not able to land any opportunities because they don't know how to articulate themselves. And that's a skill that definitely needs to be shaped and developed over time. And so what better time than to start while you're actually in high school or while you're going through the motions, so to be able to be more prepared than folks that are even in college or who are getting ready to graduate that may have not ever even touched a resume before. And so a lot of times there's a big difference between what a good resume is and what a bad resume is. And so kind of deep diving into that, what are the sections, what are the things, what are the skill sets that are needed, and being able to make sure that every single student who's leaving this program understands how to be able to break in, how to articulate themselves, and how to be able to talk professionally about what they've done. Because you can have all the experience in the world, but if you do not know how to, package that, articulate yourself, and sell yourself, then you will not be successful. And this is really a life skill, right? Because if you get really good at this now, this will carry you for the rest of your life, because you'll always be able to put this together and then run with it. And so that's really at the heart of our program, because it's one thing, like I said, to just have all this, but being able to put it together, it really matters. And then in the age of information technology, a lot of these recruiters, headhunters, high managers in today's day and age, they don't just use basic systems for screening, talent, right? They're using something called an applicant tracking system. So I speak to a lot of chief human resource officers, VPs of talent, senior executives, and it's essentially a system in which all the applications come in. They're scanning for specific things on your resume, keywords, certain buzzwords, as well as understanding if you have the right skill sets. And so if you don't have the skill sets, you're going to have a lower score in the ATS scale. And so we want to make sure that we're positioning students to understand how these systems work at this point earlier on in the funnel, so that you're not, going through the motions, getting rejected and not understanding why. And so it's really putting the lens of what does it look like when you're out into the real world now, and then also developing yourself on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I'm sure everyone on this call knows what LinkedIn is. But LinkedIn, if you don't know, is the world's largest professional network. And so not only having that resume, having the access to career coaches, but then also starting to build your brand, starting to follow companies that might interest you, starting to really understand that it's not all about Instagram and TikTok, but it's all about like building relationships with the future and being able to have a landing page to actually do that. And so as they're going through the motions, understanding that they can connect with professionals, how to network, how to go about that whole interaction. So we're just putting them in position to win now. And so when you think about it at a high level, take a step back, when you combine the experience as well as the professional brand, you really breed a really strong applicant and a future leader. And so these are the things that folks, wait their whole lives to understand, or they'll never understand. And so it's great to kind of bring that back earlier on. Because I always say that it doesn't matter if you're like a high school student or you're a VP of engineering at TD Bank. A lot of folks do not understand the baseline of professional branding and resume writing. And so being able to, equal that playing field earlier on is just so important and critical.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brandon, for kind of breaking that down. And so when we think about what careers or trajectory does our program actually prepare students for, we kind of broke it down into the 5 different, target roles. And again, we can't obviously guarantee any success. We don't guarantee future employment or anything like that, because that's just not realistic. But it's also up to the individual. Again, our program is to serve as an introductory, solid fundamental baseline understanding for students. However, with that being said, we've had students who've come through our program who then, after a short matter of weeks, have gotten full-time opportunities. And to be honest, it kind of blows me away to see actually some of the success that we've gotten from our students. About 2 weeks ago, maybe less than 2 weeks ago, we had a student come through our program, no technical experience whatsoever. She did have a bachelor's degree in psychology, but no technical experience whatsoever. She was working for a public, the state of California unemployment office. And she ended up, after 4 weeks of our program, loads of interview prep, resume writing, she ended up getting a full-time job offer from EY, which is a big 4 consulting firm, as a cybersecurity consultant, making 6 figures. And I was like, this girl really worked her tail off. She literally, it's well-deserved, but to go from not having any experience to, being a woman in this space, which represents, less than 20% of the workforce, and then even being a minority woman, which is 3% of the workforce, to go from making, a $60,000 salary increase, 6 figures is really life changing, right? It's essentially game changing, and it validated everything that we're doing is working. And so when we talk about like careers of the future and what this program will prepare students to go pursue, we've identified these 5 different roles, and that is a cybersecurity analyst, a threat analyst, a cybersecurity engineer, SOC analyst, and security specialist. And so there's a lot of synergies in between like what these roles actually entail. But these are just different role titles that, students could then go ahead and pursue and begin to, again, choose to pursue after a program, whether it be, in college or, next steps if they were to enroll into a boot camp or, just, be qualified enough to, go get a job. Because we've seen students, who are right now, I have a senior in high school who's managing 30 interns, and he's on track right now. He's studying for his industry certification. We just partnered with CompTIA, which is like the #1 IT certificate issuer in the world. And so he's right now studying, preparing for his certification, which is internationally recognized. He has about a year and change of experience. And so for some of these roles, SOC analysts, cyber security analysts, specialists, you don't need 5 years of experience. You really need like 1 or 2 years of experience. But the main point is that you need to be able to identify what the role, use the tools, understand the language, understand, processes, best practices. And, you can have someone who's more qualified in 1 year than someone who's been in the field for 3. That's my opinion. But again, these are just some of the roles we've identified as being, next steps and, in the career trajectory roadmap, what students can go ahead and pursue. Okay, so I know that was a lot of information. I appreciate you guys sticking with us for the last like 30 minutes as we kind of read through those slides. I want to go ahead and turn it over to you guys and answer any questions you guys may have, or just have an open conversation now for anything you guys are, that's coming to mind. So feel free to come off mute, ask any questions if we want us to kind of go back, revisit something, or just kind of clarify some things. If anyone is talking, you guys are on mute. I'll go ahead and.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a really good point around when you said that the requirements for entry-level roles now is kind of ridiculous, and that's systemic across just everything that we're seeing in today's day and age. Employers of the future, they really do want entry-level candidates to have 4 or 5 years of experience, and it sounds bizarre, but that's what we're seeing. And so that's why, I personally just feel like some of the things that we're doing is it just makes sense, right? Like, let's get earlier in the funnel to see if this is something that someone wants to pursue, because then you're, ahead of the curve, right? Because you could literally be a senior getting ready to graduate from college and have 0 years of experience. And so experience is subjective, but when you have like the real world experiences and you're actually working with Python and you're actually, making reports and deliverables, like now you're starting to really have a little bit more of an edge on everyone else. I just wanted to point that up. And if anybody wanted to talk about that, because that is something that we do see a lot.
Yep.
Whether it's like marketing or finance or tech, like we're seeing folks want, what tools can you use, right? What can you do? You can't do anything, next candidate. So it's one of those things that's just really, really interesting.
Yeah, and going off that, really all it takes is like one good project or one good experience to fill up all of the space within an interview. I mean, I've had interviews where I talk about a single programming project I did for 45 minutes with an interviewer, and at the end they're like, "Oh wow, wait, hold on one second, I have to ask you interview questions." So like,
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, you just, if it really doesn't take much to just differentiate yourself from the crowd when the crowd is really, graduating college with 0 applicable experience.
Absolutely. And I just want to also mention, it's kind of crazy to think about, my journey, because I actually didn't get exposed until cybersecurity until like college. And so I was in school with folks, like Keenan, who was, tinkering and playing with things, in high school and probably even before that. And so to think about like what some of the success that I've experienced since, I want to say, just after graduation, if we consider 2018 to now, 4 years, I've gotten over 500 like job opportunities come across my desk, accumulating for over $50 million in salary. And it's absolutely ridiculous because I haven't even filled out any job applications, but because of the demand for this skill, because of the landscape and opportunity right now, there's so much room. There's like unlimited opportunities and potential in this space. And so the goal that we're trying to push and what we're looking to do here is just expose students to this earlier on and really allow them to start developing a skill that's not disposable in the age of information technology. And I know I'm not the only one. I mean, Keenan's in tech, Brandon's in tech. Since the pandemic, I mean, I've gotten 3 raises just for doing my job. Not that I'm the best thing that's ever happened since sliced bread, but because I possess a skill set that is so in demand. And companies and organizations are desperate for new talent. So I just wanted to also put that out there. And so as far as like next steps, I'm not sure. Do you guys have any questions about the program or anything that we mentioned? I want to just open it up because it's a smaller group. So Wang, if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute. Bill, McGuire, I know you saw us when we went up there, but I would love to answer or address those at this time if you guys do. If not, we can just kind of talk next steps, but I want to at least give you guys the opportunity to ask since it's just us here and we're good on time. So feel free to come off mute and just ask any questions or clarify anything so far.
Do you think that like in college getting a degree in technology will help you towards like getting a job in cybersecurity and stuff like that?
That's a great question. I think that getting a degree definitely helps the barrier for entry because a lot of these applications have, want a college degree. However, I can pull up a job right now on LinkedIn that'll say, high school diploma or GED or equivalent. So it helps the barrier for entry, but do not get that confused with skill, right? A degree is not a direct representation of skill. And Keenan can validate that. Brandon can validate that. It'll help you, but again, more importantly is having the actual skill set and developing that through projects, through internships, through hands-on experience, which outweighs a college degree all day long. And this is coming from someone who has, I mean, between Keenan, myself, and Brandon, we have 6 degrees.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest,
Like if I were to go back and do it again, I would still go to college, but I would do something like this where I start building those skills as soon as possible. And then once I get into college and the degree will help, but I would use college as a professional network. You're going to meet people who are plugged into the world in that network of college. And if you show up and you have the skills, you are going to waltz right into a job.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And all of us were actually able to actually do that. So Brandon, myself, Keenan, we had full-time job opportunities before we graduated, but we all also know folks who have graduated college and go back home to work, dead end jobs wherever.
Know a lot of those, a whole lot of those. It's very surprising.
But that was a great question.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Bill, do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't think so. I'm just kind of gathering the information. I think the presentation was really good. This is set to start Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, for 3 days a week, right? 3 nights a week for 6 weeks.
So, absolutely. So the students we're starting our expected launch date is the 28th, right?
March
So
28th.
March 28th, Monday. And yes, we'll be meeting on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday from 7 to 9 during study hall hours. So students will utilize that time. We'll be getting on meetings, and that's when the program, will actually take place for the 6 weeks. So again, it won't interfere with their classes. As long as they're in good standing academically, they should have no issues whatsoever. And so, that's when our date is scheduled to kick off. So as far as, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. We're also going to we're going to provide this recording. So if you guys missed anything, you guys want to watch it, you could also email us. We're more than happy to answer any questions. So feel free. Wayne, did you have any questions for us?
It's online course or you will come to the school?
So that's a great question. So this is it's a virtual program. So we won't actually be at the school, but it's 100% virtual as of right now. Now there has been conversations that we've had to, in the future, potentially in the fall of next year, to actually have this program built into the actual curriculum. And we're in conversations now to discuss what that actually looks like. But right now it's 100% virtual, which makes sense because that's reality. That's what the real world. Keenan works from home. I work from home. Brandon works from home. So there's no reason to even come to the school when reality is remote and online. So yes, it's virtual.
Yeah, and I mean things like COVID or the pandemic obviously has pushed us towards a more virtual or remote world. But for example, myself, I was a remote employee. I believe it was like 5 or 6 months after I started in 2019. So I got brought into IBM into a cybersecurity early professional program. Kind of spent 5 or 6 months learning about what cybersecurity is at IBM. And then after that 6 months, I got placed on an actual team. And from there on out, it was remote work. So for me with the pandemic, which is kind of nice, not much has changed, to be honest. So I don't really see us going back to the old way. I mean, some companies maybe will try and do this, but I would say definitely the majority.
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions? Any other questions in the meantime? If not, as far as next steps and what that actually looks like, for anyone that's interested in enrolling in the program, whether it be yourself or obviously I know we didn't have everyone on, but for example, Bill or Wang, if you wanted to enroll your student into the program, you want to reach out to Mac Purvis, and I'm sure that McGuire knows who that is. And we go ahead and send the link to register. So it's a fairly simple process. The cost associated with the program is $2,000 per student. So we have a link for you guys to access if you want to go ahead and enroll. It's a quick, simple checkout process. And but for any communication, Mac is our point of contact. So we are working closely with Dean, closely with Mac. And so for any questions or enrollment, you feel free to either utilize the link. If Brandon, if you can go ahead and post that in the chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it in the chat here. So if anybody who's on this can go ahead and sign up now. And then we'll have communications around next steps and all that other really good stuff. So that's the direct link, or like Will said, you can contact Mac so that we can make sure that everything is processed and rolled so that we are good to go for launch, which is very exciting. Really, really exciting times. We are creating history here at HUSAC. So one of those things that it's I think it's about time that we do something like this. And like you said, just more hands-on, right? Because the skills of the future need to be taken very seriously. And so you can't talk anything without cybersecurity. Just turn on BBC News. So it's one of those things.
Yep. And we'll also be sending out, excuse me, I was shoving down my food before the meeting, so I keep on getting some type of acid reflex. But as far as next steps, we'll send out, again, we have the link here, you guys can utilize to enroll and check out. But then as far as responsibilities, we'll be sending out a parental consent form. So for any students who are interested, the parents will have to review and sign our parental consent form. And that essentially just kind of goes into detail on what we're doing, and also just kind of laying out the liability so that, parents understand that like what we're teaching our students here is for educational purposes only, and to, informational purposes. So, students should not be, utilizing anything that we go over or teach or review for malicious purposes, right? So this is for educational, informational purposes only, and they shall not by any means utilize what they've learned in a malicious manner. And so again, we are not, full disclosure, teaching students how to hack whatsoever. Again, but some of the things that they'll be exposed to, we just want to make sure that they're not utilizing that for anything but educational purposes. And so that's what that parental consent form goes over as well.
Awesome.
Yes. So, okay, well, I hope you guys weren't, I hope it wasn't too boring of a presentation informational. I hope you guys, I know McGuire's probably seen this twice by now. You're ready. Let me know when you're ready to come present with us, and we'll have you come over to this, the executive team, and present to the rest of the school.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Awesome. I got confused when he started talking. I'm like, that sounds like a parent. your voice is deeper than mine.
You're ready to be a consultant.
Are you, what sport do you play, McGuire?
Lacrosse.
Nice.
You play
That's
that.
what I used to play lacrosse in high school.
I played
Oh,
in
yeah.
middle school. I got MVP and then I gave it up. But got a hat trick in one game. Awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys for spending the time. Again, we're pretty good on time, but I'll go ahead and we'll wrap this up. For anyone, if you guys have any questions, you know how to reach us. Again, Mac is the point of contact. You can also send an email to team@thefreedomunit.com. We'll be more than happy to assist, more than happy to answer any questions. We're super excited for this program, for the launch, because we're literally doing something that no other boarding schools are doing. Like what we're bringing to the school is literally is game changing, right? We're bringing corporate learning and education to the school, and we're going to transcend the next generation. Our goal is to literally build the HUSAC school into a tech hub and staple for the next generation of scholars. So I just want to thank you guys. Wayne, thank you for participating all the way from where you are. I know you're on the other side of the world right now. Bill, thank you so much for tapping in, and McGuire. I know you guys have a million things you could be doing, but I want to thank you. The team thanks you, and we're here again at your disposal for any questions in the future. And for any parents who actually watch this video who have not made the call, feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to tap in. We're just super excited to transcend the next generation of scholars and professionals, and it's starting at the HUSAC school, where it all started for me. So,
Thank you. Thank you for
guys.
everyone's time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right,
All right.
folks, have a great night or a great day. Thank you guys
Yeah.
so much.
All right. Have a good one, guys.